Probably the most persistent misconception that I see about the Red Army and the Soviet war industry in general is that everything was free. They're communists after all. Money doesn't matter. The metal to make the tanks is free. The energy to run the plants is free. No one makes any money. You don't need to pay salaries. So, you can just say, hey, make more tanks, and the factory makes more tanks. And, well, of course, that wasn't true. The Soviet procurement system consisted of a large number of different organizations, factories, workshops, people's commissariats, and even though they were all working towards the same goal, they all had their own priorities, and at the end of the day, had to care about their own people. And if they're providing goods and services to one another, well, the only way that you can make sure that you're not giving more than you're getting back is money. And let's say maybe the big organizations can come up with some kind of workarounds to really hand wave away all the finance stuff. The workers need to buy food at the end of the day. So when you are paying your workers, you need to pay them in cold hard cash. And as a result, all the rest of the organization has to operate on a, well, financial basis as well. So today I wanted to take a moment to talk about how much did the Red Army actually cost. So for most of you, if I say 10 rubles or 100 rubles or 1,000 rubles, it probably doesn't mean anything. Uh, Usually you could say something like a bottle of milk costs 1 ruble 70 kopecks, or a kilo of wheat costs 2 rubles 10. But in a wartime context, that can be kind of dicey. Because of rationing, all of the prices were very heavily controlled. And while there was a black market, prices could fluctuate depending on where you were and what was available. And of course, the prices on the black market, it's not like they're particularly well recorded in official sources. So I decided to go with maybe another point of reference, median salaries. So for example, an agriculture worker, a median agriculture worker would be earning between 210 to 240-ish rubles per month. A industry worker, a factory worker would be earning quite a bit higher, 340 to 360 rubles. Now, that depended on what you were doing. For example, a simple security guard in a warehouse somewhere was making around 150 rubles. A Stahanovite worker was absolutely rolling in cash, getting 550 rubles per month. But these are, of course, all medians. The median salary across all industries in the Soviet Union in 1940 was 331 rubles per month, which I think makes a good baseline. So, how much did a Red Army man make compared to all of these farm workers and warehouse guards and whatnot? Well, not a hell of a lot. The basic salary for a Red Army private in his first year of service was 8 rubles 50. So, really barely enough to buy a little bit extra on top of all of the rations and equipment that the Red Army issues you during your conscription term. In your second year, your salary went up to 10 rubles per month, which, again, is not really a lot. If you were deployed in active service on the front lines, you would actually get a 100% bonus and a further 100% bonus if you were part of a guards unit. So, an actively fighting guards private in his second year of service would be making 40 rubles per month, which, well, it's better, but it's still not really high, and about 1/3 of the aforementioned security guard. Interestingly enough, privates who were in penal companies or penal battalions, so who used to hold a higher rank but were bumped all the way down to private for their crimes, they were not eligible to receive any bonuses, but they did receive a basic salary, 8 rubles 50. If you had a civilian job as a soldier, you might actually be making more money. For example, if you were pressed into civil defense, you would be receiving your original salary up to a cap of 400 rubles. If you were fighting as a part of a recognized partisan unit, you would be receiving your original salary. The caveat being you needed to have proof of income. If you didn't have proof of income, you would get 300 rubles if you were a worker, and 100 rubles if you were a student receiving a stipend. Once you were an NCO in the Red Army, that's how you were making some real money. Sergeant would be earning 100 rubles per month. Senior sergeant would be earning 150. And a starshina, which is a sergeant major, would receive a basic pay of 300 rubles. Now, you would still get a bonus. You would get a smaller bonus, so still 100% for being a part of a guards unit. But NCOs would only get a 50% bonus for being deployed. But still, if you were a guards starshina on the front lines, you would be receiving 900 rubles per month, which is 3 times the median wage and about on par with something like an engineer at a power plant or the manager of a mine shaft. For an officer, the basic salary was considerably higher. Platoon commander, so an infantry junior lieutenant, would start at 600 rubles. A company commander would receive 750 rubles. A commander and the commissar actually of a recognized partisan unit would likewise receive 750 rubles, and their deputy, or whatever the equivalent was, would receive 600 rubles. Various technical ranks also received somewhere in that ballpark, so 550 to 650 rubles for various technicians and whatnot, unless you were a doctor. Even the most junior doctor started off at 800 rubles, which was almost as much as a battalion commander, 850 rubles per month. A regiment commander would earn 1200 rubles, division commander would earn 1600, a corps commander would earn 2000 rubles, and a front commander would be absolutely rolling in cash, earning 4,000 rubles. Now, officers were still eligible for bonuses. The bonuses weren't as high, so only 50% for being part of a guards unit and 25% for being on the front lines. But still, you would be making a considerable chunk of change even as a non-guards, non-frontline officer, particularly if you were a senior commander. Odds are that after dedicating your life and your career to the Red Army, you would be making a lot more money than you were in a civilian field. The same was true for the aforementioned Master Sergeant Major. I mean, your basic salary was still less than that of a median factory worker, but let's say if you were a farm boy and your career prospects were tilling the soil for your whole life, joining the army could actually earn you quite a bit more money and prestige than you otherwise would have got. All right, but back to tanks. If you were in the tank forces in the Red Army, that was your chance to earn some serious cash. First of all, ranks. As of November of 1941, the rank structure in the Red Army armored forces changed in order to reflect the amount of training and the complexity of operating a tank compared with operating, a rifle or a machine gun. The ranks of tank crew increased proportionally. So the commander of a tank, for the most part, before the war, for T-34 or KV-1, you would be an officer. As of November of 1941, this was actually mandated. So the commander of a tank would be a junior lieutenant for medium tanks and a lieutenant for heavy tanks. Your driver would be a starshina or a senior sergeant, and even the most junior crewman, the loader, the loader's job, of course, being mostly picking up a heavy thing and putting from one place and putting it into another place. But the loader was also expected to be cross-trained for all of the other crew positions and be able to step in if they were wounded or killed. So the loader still actually needed to be trained quite a bit. And so even the loader would be a junior sergeant or even a full sergeant. So all of these tank crewmen were coming in, making a salary that could actually sustain them to some degree after they finished their service. Even on top of that, they could make a decent chunk of change with a bonus structure. Destroying an enemy tank was really quite lucrative. You would get 500 rubles apiece for the commander, the gunner, and the driver, who were considered the most instrumental in battle. But the loader, radio operator, any other tank crewman who were not directly involved in making the killing shots, they would still get 200 rubles, which again could be your monthly salary or even more. So nothing to scoff at. This same bonus was actually available to anti-tank gunners and anti-tank riflemen, with the small exception that for an anti-tank rifle crew, the assistant gunner would get 250 rubles instead of 200, but it's only a small difference. If you somehow manage to destroy a tank using individual means of combat, such as a bundle of grenades or a Molotov cocktail, you would get a whopping 1,000 rubles. Now, of course, if you did that as a part of a tank destroyer group, rather than being truly alone, that would be split evenly between all the members of the group, rather than just all go to the person who made the killing blow. But you didn't need to destroy anything to really cash out. Actually, recovering damaged tanks was more lucrative. Recovering a KV-1 or another heavy tank from the battlefield got you 5,000 rubles. Now, this had to be split between the whole recovery crew, but still quite a large sum of money. Recovering a T-34 or another medium tank would earn you 2,000, and for a light tank, only 500 rubles, but still not bad. There were also additional bonuses on top of that for recovery units that were consistently bringing in a high volume of tanks from the battlefield. Once you've recovered a broken tank, it's probably a good idea to fix it, and there were bonuses for that as well. Repair of a KV-1 or another heavy tank paid 800 rubles. Repair of a T-34 or another medium tank paid 500, and then repair of a light tank was 200. Interestingly enough, foreign tanks were lumped into the medium tank category when it came to bonuses, regardless of what their weight class actually was. Attached to this bonus, there was actually a requirement that only at most 5% of the reward could go to the unit commanders or its commissars. The vast majority of the money issued for repairing tanks had to go to the men who were actually doing the hands-on work of repairing those vehicles. So, as you can see, even in a quote unquote communist system, money still mattered, and it mattered quite a lot. Money was both awarded as a part of a regular salary and as rewards for exceptional achievements. And in the tank forces, if you excelled either on the battlefield or in the repair shop, you could make quite a bit of money, which does suggest how important money was to the Red Army and how important tanks were to the Red Army.